Elevator breakdown with the CEO. 1 hour to his wedding, and she made a confession. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from right now? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The elevator stopped with a violent jolt. Not a gentle pause, not a polite delay. A hard metallic shudder that threw her weight forward and snapped the lights into a dim, flickering glow. The digital floor indicator froze between numbers. Silence rushed in, thick and unnatural. She tightened her grip on the leather folder pressed to her chest, her breath shallow as her eyes adjusted to the cramped space. The elevator smelled faintly of polished steel and expensive cologne, the kind worn by men who never waited for anything in their lives. Except now, because standing less than 3 feet away from her was Nathaniel Cross, Chief Executive Officer of Crosswell Industries, one of the youngest billionaires in the city, and, according to every alert buzzing non-stop on his phone, a man who was supposed to be standing at the altar in exactly 1 hour. Nathaniel glanced at his screen again. 59 minutes. His jaw tightened. He pressed the emergency button once, then again. No response. The elevator did not move. She swallowed hard and shifted her weight, suddenly hyper-aware of how small she must look in comparison. Her simple navy dress, flat shoes worn thin at the soles, a temporary access badge clipped awkwardly to her collar. She was not supposed to be here. She was filling in, covering a last-minute assignment, delivering documents to a private event space upstairs before quietly disappearing back into the background. She was not supposed to be trapped in an elevator with a billionaire groom. Nathaniel finally looked at her. Not the passing glance people like him gave to staff. Not the dismissive nod. A real look, sharp, assessing, controlled. "This elevator was serviced this morning," he said, voice low and steady. "It should not have stopped." She nodded automatically, though she had no idea what to say. "I am sorry," she managed. "I can call building maintenance again." He gave a short, humorless exhale. "They are already calling me." As if on cue, his phone vibrated in his hand. Messages stacked one after another. Wedding coordinator, family office, board representative. Missed calls lighting the screen like a warning signal. He did not answer. Instead, he leaned back against the mirrored wall, rolled his shoulders once, and closed his eyes for half a second. Not in panic, in calculation. This was a man trained to control chaos. She studied him despite herself. The tailored suit, the immaculate cuffs, the posture of someone used to command. He looked calm, but there was something else now, barely visible beneath the surface. Pressure, the kind that did not come from love. The elevator creaked softly, as if reminding them it was still very much stuck. "Are you okay?" she asked before she could stop herself. He opened his eyes and looked at her again, surprised, almost amused by the question. "I am getting married in less than an hour," he said. "I would not describe this situation as okay." Her fingers tightened around the folder. "I did not mean it like that," she said quickly. "I just meant, this must be a lot." Something shifted in his expression, just slightly. "It is necessary," he replied. "That is all. Necessary." The word echoed in the small space between them. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "So, it is not because you want to?" He did not answer right away. The elevator lights flickered again, casting his reflection in fragments across the mirrored walls. Finally, he said, "Want has very little to do with it." Her chest tightened at the honesty of that answer. She looked down at her hands, then back up at him, the words escaping before fear could stop them. "I wish it were me." The sentence hung in the air, fragile and irreversible. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. Regret rushed in instantly. "I am sorry," she said, turning her face away. "I should not have said that." But Nathaniel did not look away. For the first time since the elevator stopped, he did not check his phone. He looked at her as if seeing her clearly for the first time. And in the quiet hum of a broken elevator, with 58 minutes left before a wedding neither of them truly believed in, something began to change. Nathaniel did not look away. He did not smile. He did not interrupt. He simply studied her, as if her words had shifted the balance of something he thought was immovable. The elevator hummed again, low and mechanical, but still did not move. She felt heat rush to her face. "I am sorry," she said again, more firmly this time. "That was inappropriate. Please forget I said it." "I cannot," he replied. Her breath caught. He straightened, slipping his phone into his jacket pocket, as if deliberately removing the outside world from the conversation. "You said it because you meant it. People do not say things like that by accident." She hesitated. "I meant it in the sense that you deserve to marry someone who actually wants to be there. That is all." "That is not all," he said quietly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The space between them felt smaller, charged with something unspoken. "How long have you been working this event?" he asked. "Today only," she answered. "I was asked to cover a delivery and leave before the ceremony." "And your name?" "Emily." "Nathaniel," he said, though they both knew who he was. The elevator lights flickered once more. His phone vibrated in his pocket, insistent. He ignored it. "Emily," he said slowly, "what you overheard earlier is correct. This wedding is not about love. It is a condition." Her shoulders stiffened. "A condition for what?" "For control," he answered. "For stability. For keeping what my family built from being dismantled by people who only see numbers." She frowned slightly. "That sounds like a business merger, not a marriage." "That is exactly what it is." The honesty startled her. Most men like him hid behind polished speeches. He did not bother. "And if you do not go through with it?" she asked. "There will be consequences," he said. "Immediate ones." The elevator remained still. "How much time?" she asked. He glanced at his watch. 52 minutes. Her heart pounded. "Then we should focus on getting out of here." "We will," he said. "But there is something else to consider." She looked at him, confused. "This wedding requires a bride," he continued. "It does not require a specific woman, only the appearance of one." She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "You are not serious." "I am," he said. She took a step back. "I am not the solution to whatever problem this is." "You might be," he replied calmly. "You are not connected to my family. You are not part of the negotiations, and you are already here." "That is insane," she said. "Perhaps," he agreed, "but it is also practical." The elevator jolted slightly, then settled again. "You do not even know me," she said. "I know enough," he replied. "You speak when you believe something is wrong. You apologized when you thought you crossed a line, and you are not asking what you would gain from this." She stared at him. "Because there is nothing to gain." "There would be," he said. "Protection, compensation, and an exit." Her hands trembled. She clasped them together. "I do not want your money." "I did not say money," he replied. That stopped her. "If you agreed," he continued, "this would be a contract marriage, temporary, 6 months, no more. Public appearances only, no personal obligations, no expectations beyond what is written." She shook her head slowly. "You are asking a stranger to stand in front of your family and lie." "I am asking you to stand beside me," he corrected. "The lie is already built into the ceremony." Her chest tightened. "And the woman you were supposed to marry?" "That arrangement will be resolved," he said, cleanly. She did not believe that, but she did not say it. The elevator made a sharp clicking sound. The lights steadied. Emily looked at the closed doors, then back at him. "If I say no?" Nathaniel met her gaze. "Then I walk out of this elevator alone, and everything I built begins to fracture." The weight of that statement settled heavily between them. She swallowed. "And if I say yes?" His voice softened, just slightly. "Then we both survive today." The elevator doors shuddered. Emily closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them, the countdown on his watch read 50 minutes, and nothing about her life would ever be the same. The elevator doors slid open with a slow, reluctant groan. Light flooded in. A security guard stood frozen on the other side, mid-sentence, his radio still raised to his mouth. Behind him, the polished marble hallway buzzed with controlled chaos. Voices, footsteps, the distant echo of music rehearsing for a ceremony that was supposed to begin in less than an hour. Emily did not move. Neither did Nathaniel. For one suspended second, the world outside felt unreal, like a scene they were not ready to step back into. Nathaniel was the first to move. He adjusted his jacket, his posture snapping back into place with practiced precision. The billionaire groom returned in a blink. But something had shifted beneath the surface, and Emily could see it now. He turned to her. "You do not have to decide this second." She let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "Yes, I do." Her voice was quiet, but steady. If she walked away now, this moment would follow her forever. If she stayed, nothing would ever be simple again. She stepped out of the elevator. The hallway swallowed them immediately. A wedding coordinator rushed forward, relief flashing across her face before confusion replaced it. "Mr. Cross, we were about to send someone up the stairs," she said quickly. Then her eyes flicked to Emily. "And you are?" Nathaniel did not hesitate. "This is Emily," he said. "She will be with me." The coordinator blinked. "With you, sir?" "Yes," he replied. "From now on." Emily felt every pair of eyes in the hallway turn toward her. Curiosity sharpened into scrutiny. The coordinator nodded slowly. "Very well. We are running behind schedule. The bride is waiting in the preparation suite." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "That will change." He turned to Emily. "Walk with me." She did. They moved down the corridor together, past towering floral arrangements and staff members who lowered their voices as he passed. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. Every step felt like crossing an invisible line she could not uncross. They stopped at a quiet side room just off the main hall. Nathaniel closed the door behind them. The noise faded. "Once we leave this room," he said calmly, "there will be no space for hesitation." Emily crossed her arms, grounding herself. "Then say it clearly. What exactly are you asking me to do?" "I am asking you to stand beside me at that altar," he said, "to take my name publicly, and to sign a contract privately." "A contract?" she repeated. "Yes," he said. "Everything will be defined. Time frame, expectations, boundaries." She searched his face. "No feelings?" His gaze held hers. "None required." "And after?" "After 6 months," he said, "we separate, quietly, with dignity." She laughed softly, not from humor, but disbelief. "You make it sound like a business lease." "That is the point," he replied. Silence stretched between them. "What about your family?" she asked. "Your board?" "They will accept what I present," he said. "They always do." "And me?" she asked. "What do I become in their eyes?" Nathaniel considered that. "You become my wife." The word landed heavily. Emily looked down at her hands. They were still shaking. "I need one thing," she said finally. "What is it?" he asked. "Honesty," she replied. "No matter how uncomfortable it becomes." He nodded once. "Agreed." "And if I decide I cannot continue?" she asked. "You will be free to leave," he said. "No retaliation, no pressure." She met his eyes again. "Put that in writing." A faint smile touched his lips. "It already is." There was a knock at the door. "Mr. Cross?" the coordinator called gently. "We need a decision." Nathaniel looked at Emily. This time he did not speak. The choice was hers. Emily inhaled slowly. She thought of the quiet life she had planned, the temporary job, the anonymity, the safety of never being seen too closely. Then she thought of the man standing in front of her, alone in a crowd, bound by expectations he never chose. "I will do it," she said. The room seemed to still. Nathaniel extended his hand. Emily took it. And somewhere down the hall, wedding bells began to ring, unaware that the bride they were calling for was not the one anyone expected. Emily barely recognized herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her stood still, shoulders squared, wrapped in ivory silk that felt far too expensive to belong to someone like her. The dress fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting. Her hair had been swept back with quiet elegance, no excess, no sparkle meant to distract, just clean lines, intentional. She rested her palms against the vanity to steady herself. Less than 30 minutes ago, she had been a temporary staff member holding a folder in an elevator. Now, she was about to walk down an aisle meant for someone else. A stylist adjusted the final clasp at the back of her gown. "You look beautiful," the woman said softly. Emily did not answer. Across the room, Nathaniel stood near the window, his back straight, his suit immaculate. He had not spoken much since they signed the documents. He had moved with precision, issuing calm instructions, clearing obstacles before they could form. This was his world, controlled, efficient, and now she was standing in the center of it. "Are you ready?" he asked, turning to face her. Emily met his gaze. For a brief moment, the weight of what they were doing pressed heavily against her chest. "No," she said honestly, "but I am here." He nodded once. "That is enough." Music drifted faintly through the walls. Guests were seated. The ceremony had begun without her, assuming the bride was delayed, not replaced. A coordinator opened the door. "It is time." Emily took one step forward, then stopped. "Nathaniel," she said quietly. He turned back. "If at any point you regret this," she said, "say it. I will walk away without making a scene." He studied her for a long moment. "I will not regret choosing survival," he replied, "and I will not regret choosing you." The words were steady, but something in his eyes softened. They stepped into the hall together. Whispers rippled through the crowd as they entered the ceremonial space. Faces turned. Curiosity sharpened into surprise. Some smiles froze, others tightened. Emily felt it immediately. The judgment. She lifted her chin and kept walking. At the altar, Nathaniel released her hand only long enough to take his place. She stood beside him, heart pounding, aware of every breath, every second. The officiant hesitated, clearly thrown off script, then continued. When the vows began, Emily listened carefully, not to the words being spoken, but to the room, the shifting energy, the quiet disbelief. Then it was her turn. She spoke clearly, calmly, every word deliberate. She promised respect, partnership, honesty, nothing more, nothing false. When Nathaniel spoke, his voice did not waver. "I choose you," he said, "not because it is easy, but because you are here." A murmur moved through the audience. The rings were exchanged. The officiant pronounced them married. Applause followed, hesitant at first, then louder, carried by obligation if not understanding. Emily exhaled. It was done. As they turned to face the crowd, a woman in the front row stood abruptly. She was impeccably dressed, her expression sharp with disbelief. "This is absurd," the woman said. "Who is she supposed to be?" The room fell silent. Emily felt every eye shift back to her. Nathaniel did not move. He stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Emily, his presence firm. "She is my wife," he said, "and that is all you need to know." The woman's lips pressed into a thin line. "You expect us to accept this without explanation?" "Yes," Nathaniel replied evenly. "You will." The silence deepened. Emily realized then that the real ceremony had just begun, and this one would test them both. The reception began immediately after the ceremony, as if nothing unusual had happened. Crystal glasses clinked. Soft music filled the air. Staff moved with trained precision, guiding guests into clusters of polite conversation. From a distance, it looked like a flawless wedding. Up close, it felt like a battlefield. Emily stayed close to Nathaniel's side as they entered the reception hall. His hand rested lightly at the small of her back, not possessive, but deliberate, a signal, a statement. "You stand here, with me." She could feel the eyes on her, measuring, weighing, dismissing. "This will be the first test," Nathaniel murmured, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "They will probe quietly before they strike openly." Emily kept her expression calm. "What do I do?" "Be exactly who you are," he said. "They will expect you to pretend. Do not." The first approach came from an older man with silver hair and a sharp smile. One of the board members, Emily guessed. He extended a hand. "Congratulations," he said. "This was unexpected." Emily accepted the handshake. Life usually is. The man's smile tightened. "May I ask what line of work you were in before today?" Nathaniel did not intervene. This was her moment. "I worked contract jobs," Emily replied evenly. "Temporary assignments. I filled gaps where I was needed." The man raised an eyebrow. "Ambitious." "Practical," she corrected. "There is a difference." A flicker of interest crossed his face before he excused himself. More followed. A woman with a voice like silk and eyes like glass asked where Emily had studied. A younger executive questioned her understanding of public expectations. A distant cousin commented on how quickly things had changed. Emily answered each calmly, No embellishment, no apology. She did not claim to belong. She simply refused to be diminished. Nathaniel watched silently, his expression unreadable. This was exactly why he had chosen her, not because she blended in, but because she did not bend. Then the woman from the front row approached again, the one who had challenged them during the ceremony. "This arrangement," the woman said coolly, "will not survive scrutiny." Emily turned to face her fully. "You are correct," Emily said. "It will survive honesty." The woman scoffed. "You expect us to believe this is real?" Emily held her gaze. "I expect nothing from you." A hush fell around them. Nathaniel stepped forward, his voice steady. "This discussion is over." The woman's lips parted, then pressed together. She turned and walked away. The tension eased, replaced by something quieter. Respect. Later, as the evening wore on, Nathaniel guided Emily toward a quieter corner of the room. "You did not flinch," he said. She let out a breath. "I was terrified. You did not show it." "I was not trying to impress anyone," she said. "I was trying not to disappear." Something shifted in his expression. "You did not," he said. For the first time that night, the noise of the room faded for Emily. The contract, the 6 months, the exit plan, all of it felt distant. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Nathaniel replied, "we learn how to stand together without losing ourselves." Across the room, the guests watched them quietly. They were no longer questioning whether the marriage existed. They were wondering how long it would last. And for the first time, Emily wondered the same thing. The suite was silent when the door closed behind them. For the first time since the elevator, the music, the vows, and the scrutiny fell away. The city lights stretched beyond the tall windows, distant and indifferent. Emily stood near the entrance, unsure where to place herself now that no one was watching. Nathaniel loosened his tie slowly, not out of frustration but release. He set it aside, then removed his jacket with careful precision, as if control was the only thing keeping the night from collapsing. "You handled them well," he said. Emily exhaled. "I did not feel well." "That is not the same thing," he replied. She crossed her arms, grounding herself. "Is this how it always is for you?" He considered the question. "Yes, people listen for weakness. They wait for it." "And if they find it?" she asked. "They use it," he answered simply. She nodded. That much made sense. They stood there, the distance between them deliberate. The contract they had signed lay on the desk nearby. Its presence felt even when unseen. "This part," Emily said quietly. "This is where we clarify the rules again." Nathaniel turned to face her fully. "Yes. No sharing a bed," she said. "No performances when we are alone." "Agreed." "No using each other as leverage," she added. "Never." "And if this starts to feel wrong," she continued, "we say it out loud." Immediately. He met her gaze. "Agreed." Silence settled again, but this time it felt different. Less tense, more honest. Emily walked toward the window, her reflection faint against the glass. "I keep thinking about what you said earlier." "Which part?" he asked. "That you chose survival," she replied. "And then you said you chose me." Nathaniel did not answer right away. "I did not plan to," he said finally. "You were not part of the strategy." "That is reassuring," she said dryly. He allowed a faint smile. "But you were necessary." She turned. "Necessary again?" "No," he corrected. "Unexpected." The word landed softly. Emily looked at him, really looked at him, beyond the tailored suit and practiced restraint. There was exhaustion there, loneliness, a man who had built everything except a place to rest. "I am not fragile," she said. "I know," he replied. "That is why this might work." The admission surprised them both. A knock came at the door. A staff member quietly informed them the press would expect a brief appearance before the night ended. Nathaniel nodded. "Give us 5 minutes." When the door closed, Emily laughed softly. 5 minutes to be a married couple. He studied her expression. "Do you regret it?" She thought of the elevator, the choice, the moment she stepped forward. "No," she said, "but I am afraid." "So am I," he admitted. That was new. They stood side by side, not touching, but no longer distant. 6 months, Emily said. 6 months, Nathaniel confirmed. Yet neither of them believed that was the part that would be difficult. The difficult part would be remembering where the contract ended and something else began. And as they prepared to step back into the public eye together, both understood one quiet truth. This marriage might have started as an agreement, but it was already changing them in ways no document could control. The backlash did not come immediately. It waited. 3 days passed after the wedding, each one wrapped in polite silence. Headlines celebrated a surprise union. Stock prices held steady. Public statements praised unity and stability. On the surface, everything worked. Underneath, pressure was building. Emily felt it first in the boardroom. She sat beside Nathaniel at the long glass table, her posture straight, hands folded calmly in her lap. Around them, executives and board members reviewed quarterly projections with careful neutrality. Then, the questions shifted. "Before we proceed," said the same silver-haired board member from the reception, "there is concern about governance risk." Nathaniel did not react. "Clarify." The man nodded toward Emily. "The sudden nature of your marriage raises questions about influence, conflicts of interest, decision-making." Emily felt the room close in. "This is inappropriate," Nathaniel said evenly. "It is necessary," another voice cut in. "Investors are asking whether your wife holds any leverage over corporate strategy." Emily understood then. This was not curiosity. It was an attack. Nathaniel turned slightly toward her. "You do not have to answer." She looked at the faces around the table. Powerful people, comfortable people, people who had never been questioned in rooms like this. "Yes," she said, "I do." Nathaniel did not stop her. "I do not hold shares," Emily said clearly. "I do not advise strategy. I do not attend internal meetings unless invited. I have no authority over this company." A murmur rippled through the room. "And the contract?" the woman from the ceremony asked, her tone sharp. "Surely there is one." The silence that followed was heavy. Nathaniel met Emily's eyes. This was the moment the contract had been designed for. Emily inhaled slowly. "Yes," she said, "there is an agreement." Nathaniel stiffened. "It exists to protect both of us," Emily continued, "not to manipulate this company. I entered this marriage without demands, without promises of power, and without conditions that compromise governance." The room fell quiet. "That contract," the woman pressed, "could be interpreted as evidence of deception." Emily turned fully toward her. "Only if you believe marriage itself is a transaction." The words landed hard. Nathaniel felt it then. Not relief, fear. This was the line they were not supposed to cross publicly. After the meeting, the fallout came fast. Legal inquiries, internal reviews, a request to examine personal agreements. Nathaniel closed his office door and turned to Emily, his voice controlled but tight. "You should not have said that." "I said the truth," she replied. "You exposed yourself. So did you," she said quietly. He looked away, jaw clenched. "This was supposed to be clean." "It was never going to be," Emily said. "Not if you wanted honesty." Silence stretched between them, heavier than before. Later that night, alone in the suite, Nathaniel stood by the window, staring out at the city. "This is where it breaks," he said. "They will force a choice." Emily joined him. "Between what?" "Between the company," he said, "and you." She did not hesitate. "Then choose the company." He turned sharply. "Do not say that." "It is the agreement," she reminded him. 6 months, no damage." His voice lowered. "You are not damage." The words surprised them both. Outside, the city continued on, unaware that the marriage everyone had accepted was now under real threat. And this time, no contract could protect them from what came next. The gala was meant to reassure everyone. That was the purpose of the evening. An investor appreciation event, carefully curated, invitation only, cameras placed at flattering angles, a stage set for unity and confidence. Nathaniel understood the message immediately. This was where they would force his hand. Emily felt it the moment they arrived. The smiles were too practiced, the greetings too formal. Conversations paused just long enough when they passed. This was not a celebration. It was a tribunal disguised as champagne and silk. Nathaniel offered his arm. "Stay close," he said quietly. "I always do," Emily replied. They moved through the room together. Investors nodded. Board members exchanged looks. The woman who had challenged them before stood near the front, waiting. Then the host tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said warmly, "thank you for joining us tonight. Before we begin, our Chief Executive Officer would like to say a few words." Nathaniel stiffened almost imperceptibly. This was not on the schedule. Emily felt it then, the tightening in his arm, the tension he could not hide. "They planned this," she whispered. "Yes," he said. The applause swelled as Nathaniel stepped onto the stage. The lights washed over him, sharp and unforgiving. He looked out at the room, at the people who had helped him build an empire, and at the people now questioning whether he deserved to keep it. "My marriage," Nathaniel began calmly, "has raised concerns." The room went still. Emily stood alone at the edge of the crowd, every eye sliding toward her. "Some of you believe it threatens stability," he continued. "Others believe it compromises control." A pause. "I invited you here to resolve that." The woman stepped forward. "Then be transparent," she said. "Is this marriage a strategy or a mistake?" The question hung heavy. Nathaniel looked directly at Emily, not at the board, not at the investors, at her. And in that moment, Emily understood. This was the choice, the company, or her. He could end it now, frame it as a temporary decision, preserve his power, protect everything he had built. She met his gaze and gave a small nod. Choose survival. Nathaniel turned back to the room. "This marriage did not begin as love," he said clearly. "It began as necessity." A ripple of reaction moved through the audience. "But it was not a deception," he continued. "It was a decision made under pressure, and it was mine." The woman smiled thinly, then corrected. "No," Nathaniel said. The word landed with finality. Emily's breath caught. "I will not," he continued, "because what began as an agreement has become a partnership, and I will not sacrifice integrity to satisfy comfort." The room erupted into murmurs. "This company does not exist because of control," Nathaniel said. "It exists because of trust, and I trust my wife." Every head turned toward Emily. Nathaniel stepped down from the stage and crossed the room to her. He reached for her hand, publicly, deliberately. "I choose her," he said, "not because I must, but because I want to." The silence was deafening. Then, slowly, applause began. Not polite, not obligatory, real. Emily felt tears threaten, but she did not let them fall. She stood beside him, her grip firm. The woman said nothing. The tribunal was over. Later, away from the lights, Emily finally spoke. "You risked everything." Nathaniel looked at her, his voice quiet. "I almost lost myself. You stopped that." The contract, once so powerful, now felt meaningless, because the truth was clear. What they had started as a lie had just become something real, and everyone had seen it. The fallout was quieter than Emily expected. There were no dramatic resignations, no public scandals, no overnight collapse. Instead, there were meetings, revisions, statements issued with careful language. The board recalibrated, investors adjusted, the company endured, and so did they. 3 weeks later, the city felt different, not because it had changed, but because Nathaniel had. Emily noticed it in small ways. He walked slower. He listened longer. He no longer treated silence as something to conquer. One evening, they returned to the penthouse together after a long day. The lights were low. The city stretched beneath them, familiar and distant. Nathaniel loosened his cufflinks and placed them carefully on the table. "The board approved the revised governance structure today," he said. "No clauses tied to personal relationships, no conditions." Emily nodded. "That is good." "It is final," he added. "They cannot use us as leverage anymore." Us. The words settled between them. Emily walked toward the desk where the contract still rested, neatly aligned, untouched since the gala. She picked it up, feeling the weight of the pages that had once defined everything. 6 months, she said quietly. That was the agreement. Yes, Nathaniel replied. She opened to the final page. Her signature sat beside his, inked in a moment of urgency, survival. I stayed because we needed to finish what we started, she said, but I will not stay out of obligation. Nathaniel approached slowly, nor would I ask you to. She met his gaze. Then we should end it. The words were calm, certain. He did not flinch. "End the contract," she clarified, "not the marriage." The air seemed to still. Nathaniel reached for the document. He did not tear it. He did not rush. He read the final clause once more, then folded the pages carefully. "I built my life on agreements," he said, "on terms, on certainty." He looked at her. "This is the first thing I have ever wanted without conditions." Emily felt her breath catch. He set the contract down and slid it into the drawer. Then he locked it. "Not destroyed," he said, "just no longer needed." She smiled softly. "That feels right." Nathaniel took a small step closer. "Emily, I cannot promise you simplicity, or comfort, or a life without scrutiny." She did not look away. "I do not want promises made out of fear." He nodded. "Then let me say this instead. I choose you, every day." Without obligation, without strategy. The words were steady, earned. Emily reached for his hand. "Then I choose you too." Months later there was another ceremony. No press, no board members, no negotiations waiting behind closed doors. Just a quiet space, close friends, honest vows. This time there was no countdown, no necessity, no contract. As they stood together, Emily thought back to the elevator, the flickering lights, the moment everything broke open. What began as survival had become something stronger, a partnership built on truth, a marriage chosen freely. And as they walked forward together, the city below them continued on, unaware that the strongest agreements were never written at all.